Hello and welcome again to Intimate Chats with Sagicor. Today we explore the topic, investments are for everyone. By the end of this program, you'll understand the benefits of investment and how they are a tool to make your money work for you. But before we introduce today's panel, we took to the streets asking the question, what do investments mean for you? Let's watch.
My financial goal today will be getting forward. It is about, I like trucking and excavators and that kind of stuff. I'm building.
Basically, get rich or die trying, brother.
To be a millionaire by 60.
Right now, I'm looking at least make $10,000 to $5,000 a month.
I do upholstery, have an upholstery business. You know what I mean? Sometimes to get better equipment, like better machinery and stuff like that.
Yes, I believe is an important part of achieving goals.
Investments will be always an important part of achieving goals because if you don't invest, you don't achieve anything. You still have spare one.
Whether it's mine or someone's one, I believe that investments are.
Can't tell you that. I know I invest a lot of time.
I got a little upholstery business. I invest into my music. I do reggae music as well.
Like it's about 6 small apartments.
Right now, I'm an entertainer. I do fire eating, shaggy beer, green monkey, etc.
I invest in a taxi. A very expensive car I invest in.
So there you have it, folks. It does seem that people think investments are important. However, when they think of investments, they don't think about financial investments. But luckily, today, we have a panel of experts who will share their expertise on investments and how they can work for you.
I am Nicholas Neckles. I'm the portfolio manager with Sagicor.
I'm Annette Phillips-Gay. I'm a broker fund administrator with Sagicor.
And then we have some guests who are going to be testing the mettle of these experts with questions about investments and how they can use them to better their financial well-being.
I am Zhane Padmore. I'm the owner and creative director of Cultured by Zhane, and I'm also a dancer with the group Rhythm Tribe.
Hi, my name is Alleyne, and I am an educator at private primary school. I'm also the owner of a business called Pickney Busy Box.
Hi, my name is Desroy Reece. I am the owner of a catering company called the Kitchen Caterers.
So we're going to start today with throwing out the question that we threw out on the streets, which is, what are your financial goals?
I would say, honestly, to be financially stable and free. I believe nobody wants to be dependent on anybody for anything financial, so definitely it's that. I won't get too specific.
My financial goals are to own my own school one day, to be honest.
That's right.
For me is financial freedom, of course. How that will look daily for me is to cover my costs and be able to make enough money daily to cover my staff, and then my profit on top of that. Monthly, same thing. And so my financial goals are based on like the calculations of that stuff.
Would you say investments are something you think about in terms of achieving those goals?
Yes, definitely. I wish I had that thought process a little younger, when I was a little younger, but definitely it is important, especially in times of uncertainty, like what's going on right now. If you have a goal, there's only so much you can do. You obviously have to plan.
Right.
And investments definitely will be the way to go in terms of that.
There's a Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree is when you're very young, and then the very next best time is now.
Yeah.
Whenever now
Truth.
is.
Truth. Very true.
That's right.
Yeah, I think investing is important. Same thing as Zhane was saying. I wish I thought about it earlier, but I think it's also a matter of what to invest in, and I'm sure the experts would help us with that. Because investing is important, but you also have to be smart about it, and not just because you could lose as much money as you could possibly gain. So.
Well, there are different levels of risk, and our team will get into that in a few minutes. But first, Amanda.
Yeah, I think investments are very critical for any business to propel forward and to really get what you want to get, the returns back into your pocket.
So I think we can start now, Nikki. Tell us about what's available. What are the different types of investments?
Well, before I get into what's available, I noticed Zhane said, and Desroy said that they haven't invested yet. But as far as I could see, you each have a business that is an investment. You've actually invested in yourself. You're at the stage now where you want to grow your investment. And you have the right ideas. You want to be able to pay your workers and so on and propel the business forward. So I would say you've already made the initial investment in yourself and you have a business. Now you want to grow your business, but you may have other goals. Do you want to retire, any of you, at some point?
Yeah. No, I think they
Right.
want to work forever. I do. I certainly do.
But no, some people do want to work well past their retirement because they love what they do. Janae, you're a dancer. I guess there's a shelf life on how long on how long you can do that. But okay, so let's say the immediate goal is to grow your business. So that's your short-term goal. The next goal would be retirement. So that's a very long-term goal. So to achieve that, I know you said you didn't want to be specific. I'm not picking on you, Janae, but I noticed what you said. But setting goals, you should be specific. So for instance, I heard a gentleman say he wanted to retire with $1 million. That's specific. He knows the amount that he wants. All he needs to do is add on at what age would he want to have $1 million. So you can specify what goals you have in terms of retirement, at what age, how much money you think you would need. We could give you help on calculating that amount.
Would you add anything to that, Annette?
I would also say that in looking at investing, if you're now beginning to invest, that it's good to do a budget so that you know where you stand. So you know what your income is generally on the month, whether it is a fixed income or variable. So you look at your expenses, you could look at your variable expenses and make a list of if there are any items that you think that you may be overspending on. I think that's what you first need to look at to be able to see if investing is viable for you, and it should be viable for everyone at some point of time. So I think that's the first step that you would need to take in looking at venturing into investing.
And actually, this is a beautiful segue at this point in time because we've put together a video called Hidden Cash. How do you find money to invest?
Through Hidden Cash, here are some ways to reserve a small amount of your income for investing. Check your credit card bill. Do you have recurring subscriptions that you no longer use, like memberships or magazines? It's real money. Cancel them. Track your spending for a month and see where your money goes. Did you find unnecessary purchases? Add them up. Then create a budget and reserve that amount monthly for investing. Lower your recurring bills. Do you remember to turn off the lights and fans when you are leaving home? Do you really watch all those shows on cable? Get a small package. Do you need that many minutes on your cell phone? Get a cheaper plan. Sign up for the loyalty cards at all your regular merchants, your supermarket, gas station, everywhere you shop. You can then spend rewards instead of cash. Always pay your credit on time. Later payment fees can be as much as $100 monthly, and the investment on a $5,000 balance is also around $100. Try making additional payments to your card to reduce the balance to zero over time.
So now we found a little bit of money, starting somewhere. We're going to talk about the types of investments that are available.
We'll start off with fixed deposits. So for instance, Desroy, you mentioned you wanted to grow your business, as in that's a short-term type of goal. It's good if you have surplus cash to invest in a fixed deposit. So a fixed deposit is something where it's a short-term investment. They're normally between 3 months to 2 years. So you would invest a certain amount of money, and in 1 year, you know exactly what you're going to get back. It's a small interest rate. Because of that interest rate, it's considered least amount of risk. And because it's the least amount of risk, it's offering a lower return. You can also go into what's called bonds. Bonds tend to be a little more risky. So there are contractual obligations, and they can last between 5 to 30 years. The main risk with a bond is the issuer of the bond could default, which is what happened, unfortunately, here in Barbados in 2018. The government defaulted on its loans. So corporations can also issue bonds. So if you wanted capital for an investment in your business, you could go to an investment bank and you can explain what it is you're trying to do, and they can issue a bond on your behalf. But you would have to pay an interest on that bond, but you would have the capital to grow the business, and theoretically you'll be able to pay for that bond. So the next one would be shares or equity. That's another way. I don't know how you guys started your business, but you may have gone to a friend, you may have gone to a family member and asked them for money. If they decided to help you, they actually theoretically own part of your company. They may not know that, so I don't know if I'm ratting you out. But that's a form of equity. So a share is part ownership in a company. The benefits of a share is that it offers you the highest amount of growth, therefore the highest amount of return, but with that comes more risk. They also can pay dividends if a company is doing well. You want to give back to your shareholders, those who supported you, that would be a dividend. So the next thing I would recommend would be a mutual fund. A mutual fund is basically, as I said, a pool of investments, all those investments I just mentioned, even real estate, and you invest in an already diversified fund. It's also the most cost effective because mutual funds tend to be it's shared risk. So a number of different investors invest in this one fund. So it's well diversified.
And diversified risk is lower.
Correct. So all of us know not putting all your eggs in one basket. You try to diversify as much as possible, and a mutual fund is great for those of us with limited funds, which I speak for myself, I have limited funds. But if, for instance, you were a multimillionaire, you could pick and choose what different types of asset classes you wanted to invest in. So a mutual fund is very good for that.
So how do you get started, Annette?
Well, here at Sagicor, with the mutual funds, to get started, you will need to complete an application form, and you also need to submit 2 proofs of valid government-issued picture ID and 1 proof of address dated within 3 months. The initial subscription is $500, and anytime after that, a minimum of $100. So in beginning with the mutual fund, you could decide for yourself which of these 3 funds that you want to invest in. And the goal with the mutual fund, you decide for yourself how long you want to have the account. We usually recommend a minimum of 5 years because you have to give the share price, which we call the NAV, you have to give that time to grow, right? You could, as Nicholas said, you could use the mutual fund to help with your business, or you could use it as a retirement tool.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Annette, because when we talk about investments are for everyone, I think that entrepreneurs often feel, well, not for me because I don't have a certain amount of money that I can guarantee I'm going to have every month.
Right.
So now that keeps me out of it. But the ability then to put in on an ad hoc basis or on an annual basis means that it opens it up to everyone.
Yes, it does, yes. And the mutual funds are now open, so if you are not able to put in on a monthly basis, you could put in as you're able to, a minimum of $100. And you may say, well, I don't always have $100 at one time, but I'm sure sometimes when you have to go out and you need to buy a dress or you need to buy an outfit, I'm not looking at anybody, I'm looking at that, before you spend more than $100. You could say, well, you have, for instance, you have on this lovely white dress, you can accessorize it differently and save that $100. Save that, not necessarily you, but just speaking generally, and save that $100 and say, okay, I'm going to invest in a mutual fund account. If, for instance, you are unable to afford the $500 to begin the mutual fund account, there's the option of also getting a gift certificate that starts at $100. Now, you cannot buy that for yourself. You could get someone to buy the gift certificate for you and start off at $100 and get your investment going.
Yeah, and it's not like an insurance product where if you don't pay in, your mutual fund doesn't lapse. It will just accrue interest what you've already put in. So it offers that flexibility.
And we will have another program coming up talking about the role that insurance plays, because insurance and investments, they're part of a basket of tools that you can use for financial prosperity.
Right.
So there's a place for insurance
Okay.
and there's a place for investments. And we'll deal with that on another program.
Okay.
I have a question. I'll go around and ask everyone. What would you say your risk tolerance is between average, above average, and below average?
Can I say below average?
Yes, you could say what you think it is.
Whatever is true.
I mean, I, as an entrepreneur, like Carolyn would have said, I mean, most of our, I don't want to say our problems, but we will find that some months perform better than some, as expected. So definitely, I wouldn't say let me jump high in the risk level for right now, but now hearing about how easy it can be and the fact that you don't have to be putting in money every single month, I think I would stay with the low risk for now and then move up.
So you're below average, you would say
I
below.
would say right now.
I would say that I'm average.
Desroy?
I would say I was above average, especially when I first started my business. As I got older and I have a family, I got 2 sons, I kind of come down to average because I am not just thinking about myself. But if it was just me,
Above average.
Above average, yeah.
Naturally above average.
You all say they're the experts, but you all sound very knowledgeable to me. So what I would say is, just because based on the fact you're all entrepreneurs, your willingness to take risk is above average on that alone.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I
Put it
see
that
where you're
way.
going.
Amanda teaches as well.
No,
so she
but
has,
no, but
an
she,
income.
I have it balanced.
Yeah.
she has that, but she also does
Has her
things
business.
on her
Absolutely.
own.
Yes.
Sure. For sure.
The other thing that you look at to see what your risk level is your investment time horizon. Now, if it is you're interested in retirement, you all look younger than 30.
Thank you.
You all look younger than 30.
I hope you're including me.
Yes. So basically that means you have over 30 years to invest. Again, so that would mean you have an above average ability to take risk. So when you look at risk, you combine your willingness and your ability to take risk. So I think all 3 of you have above average risk tolerance. So mutual funds, again, not to harp on mutual funds, but the mutual funds that we have kind of, it takes you through your life changes. So for right now, I don't know if you have any dependents, either of you.
I do.
You have? Okay. So for Zhane, because you have above average risk tolerance, we have something called the Select Growth Fund. So the Select Growth Fund invests in those higher risk assets that I mentioned before, like equities. So it offers you a higher return, but more volatility. Now, you're saying, this man, he telling me to invest in equities when all of the markets right now are down.
Right.
When there's market turmoil, that's when there's opportunity to buy in low because the stocks are all down.
It's true.
So none of us can time when the bottom is exactly. But regardless of when the bottom is, if you get in around this time or the next 2 months or so, if you look forward 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it's gonna be higher. You don't give guarantees in investment, but the probability of it being higher is high. So then we have a middle of the road fund, which is like a balanced fund, which I would say is appropriate for you. So it has like 60% to equities and 40% to bonds. And then we have a low risk mutual fund, which we recommend to people near retirement who can't afford to lose capital. So that's called the preferred income fund. So it offers a lower return, but it's definitely more stable.
Food for thought, definitely.
It's
And speaking of food, again, we're trying to find money to invest because all of this is very inspirational without the actual dollars to support it. So we're going to go back to our video again and see how we can save on our food bill and find money to invest.
Through food hacks, here are some ways to reserve a small amount of your income for investing. Cut back on your daily coffee or bring it from home. Bring lunch a few days a week to make it even easier. You can meal prep on weekends. Drink only water. but buy a refillable bottle instead of purchasing bottled water. Make a list of what you need at the supermarket and stick to it. This cuts down on unnecessary impulse buys. Love going out to dinner? Why not do lunch or coffee instead? It's cheaper.
So you talked about having a specific goal, and the gentleman said he wanted $1 million for retirement, and you said we need to add an age to that. Do we also need to add a lifestyle to that? Like, what is our expectation? Because if we have a home, then we need to include, we may have paid off the mortgage, but we need maintenance. If we're living alone, then we may need to factor in that when we get to a certain age, we may need assistance. Like, what are some of the things that we need to factor in that we say, this is the amount of money that I'm looking for, and I need to think about all of these different things when I decide what that amount of money is?
Well, first of all, when you start to know all of those different things, they recommend coming up with what's called an investment policy statement. It sounds complicated, but it's really not.
Is it something
it's
that we
just
help
literally you write down what your goals and priorities are.
Okay.
And then you go to an investment professional. They can look at your salary. They could look at what your total goal is, and they can do what's called a present value calculation and see what you need to save to reach that goal. So sometimes when you do that the first time, people realize that, okay, that original goal is not realistic, or I was too conservative, I can do better. And then you make adjustments as you go.
Suppose I do that, and the figure that comes out is like $3,000 a month. And I say, well, I can't do $3,000 a month. How do you then start somewhere so that you can eventually get to the goal amount that you need?
Well, as
I don't want people to be scared off by a figure that they can't immediately afford and understand that they need to start somewhere.
to begin.
Well, as Annette said, you have fixed costs, those you can't get away from, and you have variable costs. The variable costs you can play around with. Those are the ones you can cut out completely. The fixed costs, we have to stick with them. If it is that the original amount you have to come down, it's a hard decision to make, but then you would have to just adjust your lifestyle or realize that in retirement, you won't be able to have the same amount of funds as you did in your working life. But what experts recommend is before you get to retirement, like
start paying off bills.
Well, that too, but 3 years out, start living off what you think you will be able to, what income you think you'll be able to receive in retirement, and then see how well you can manage it, or if you need to adjust.
Start saving more.
Correct.
And in fact, if you start to live off that amount of income and save the rest, that kind of
then
props up your retirement income as well.
Correct. And again, I know you're all entrepreneurs. I hope you're making your NIS contributions, because the NIS, it's like a floor. It's something that you will be guaranteed. So you won't have other investments that will prop up that floor. So at least you know that, okay, I'm going to get $35,000 a year from NIS, and then you can add to it based on your other individual investments.
Yeah.
So I want to say immediately that NIS is definitely the floor, but you can't live on the floor. You need a bed, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And I think that a lot of Barbadians now have found themselves in a really difficult position where NIS is all that they have. And they realize that it comes nowhere near to touching the cost of living.
Because while the NIS will provide you with a portion of the money that you need to use towards your retirement, we also have to take inflation into account as the years go by. So you should also have another buffer for the NIS. You need to start, and do not let the fear of investing deter you from starting. You have your own business, and the fear of starting your own business did not stop you from starting your own business, right?
Very true.
So you need
much
to
harder than
You need not
than a diversified portfolio that an expert manages for you.
You need not to think too much about it and just start, because from working here at Sagicor with the mutual fund section, there are plenty customers who come in to take some money off their accounts, and they start that they have to take off the money, but then they say, what if I didn't have this to help me out?
Exactly.
So it could also be used as an emergency fund in case you had to
something happens.
You need a bit of money, you can always put it back in. So you need to look at it from more than one aspect, other than just financial planning, yes, but in terms of having a buffer for yourself and something that you can fall back on in time of need. Right?
And one of the things that it's very important to note now is that the rate of return at a commercial bank, I think that maybe if you put the money under the bed, it might be more useful, because then you take off the fees and then that interest is all gone.
Right.
So if you're looking for an emergency fund, maybe not a bank at this point in time, but a mutual fund where you have access to the cash. And Nicholas went through the list of different risks and different types of investments.
Right.
But in terms of accessibility, a mutual fund is very accessible. A bond, you're locked in, and there's often a penalty for withdrawal.
Yes, for the mutual funds, we value the fund each week. So if you come in, we value every Friday. So if you come in on a Thursday and say, I want to redeem my units, by the Monday or Tuesday the following week, you will have your money.
Okay.
So it's not a lockup type.
Accessible.
So yes, correct.
Can I ask about the flip side of investing, as in gaining investments, just in Barbados in general? Because, for instance, when I wanted to start my business, I went to a couple banks, and the banks were like, I gotta be working somewhere for like 5 years and a whole bunch of stuff. And then I end up the bank had a special for like people that want to travel. So they had this loan thing if you want to travel. So I went to the bank for a travel loan, and I get it. I couldn't get it the same amount for business, but I could have get it for travel.
Leisure.
You know? So I think other people that are trying to start a business may have some trouble trying to find investment different places.
The thing with banks is they have, ever since the 2008 financial crisis, a lot of banks were on the brink of failure. So what changed was they have a lot of capital controls, i.e. it just means they made it harder for them to do risky things. So that affected small businesses in terms of they will assess you at a much harder level than what they did in the past. It helps in times like this now where there's COVID-19. A lot of the banks have ability now, they have liquidity, they can help businesses stay afloat for a time. But in terms of you have to get creative. As what you did, you got a loan
We are not
for not
saying
for
right
a
to
bit
banks.
for a
Sagicor
business.
is not saying right to banks. Okay.
But again, that's why I said you can go to a friend if they believe in your business. That's another way you get funding. You go to an investment bank. It's different from a commercial bank. Show your business plan. Show your business model. You guys are young people and very digital aware. You can get funding. You could do crowdfunding, where you can kind of post what it is you do and ask for donations if people believe in your business. But you have to give back in those circumstances. Like if you have a product, you may have to say you have a 1 week free whatever.
Or to limit reduced price.
Correct, a discounted price on products. That's another way. So don't think that if a bank isn't going to lend, I can't start. In this digital age we live in that I'm not even savvy with, there are so many ways you can get funding.
How would you change the narrative for, say, a school leaver They're now starting university. I know I touched on it a bit, saying I should have started younger. If I only knew this at 18, how do we change the narrative? Because we don't learn about investments during school.
Yeah.
But indeed, when you, in hindsight, you look back and it's like, maybe if I knew that a little bit earlier, I could have a little bit more now, so it's easier to transition into adulthood. So what can be done to change the narrative, get young people interested in investing, and what are their options?
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is that one organization can definitely make a difference, and I can tell you that our Sagicor advisors go to graduation classes. Those folks have absolutely no money at the time, so it's really just to educate school leavers. We can't get to everyone at this point in time, but I do think there is a role for the school system to start teaching investments and also entrepreneurship. Our mindset has always been just go work for someone and hope for the best. In terms of proactively managing our money, in terms of looking at investing in ourselves, not so much. So I do think that there's a role for institutionalizing that education, but we do it at Sagicor. Our advisors go out and they do it.
It's really up to those in the profession to go out there into the schools. And before we started, I heard you all with great investment ideas, but you all didn't think it was an investment idea. So I want to ask, you were mentioning companies that are doing well because of COVID-19 and people working from home. Can you mention some of those again?
Well, Amanda's one of them.
I am one of them.
Amanda can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my Pitney Busy Box is.
Well, first say what it is, so that
so it's an educational tool that allows you to engage your fine and gross motor skills and mathematical skills, English language, science, for children just to learn in a fun, interactive way. So it's a box that comprises of all these things, all different manipulatives. So you will have something to engage your fine motor and all the other things I just mentioned. Then you have a busy book, which is books and activity book to help them with their fine motor skills specifically. And then you have a busy bag, which is a craft bag to help them engage in their imagination and just learning through play holistically. So these things are to bridge the gap between school and home, because a lot of parents, I think that lessons may be the answer, or sending your kids to school may be the answer. But a lot of it has to be done at home, because if you do not engage them at home, they completely forget when they get the tablet and the games and everything else. They forget what they're being taught at school, majority of the time. So that's a tool that is thriving right now in COVID-19 because
it's an actual box.
It's a box
actual
of
box.
activities. It gets delivered. And so right now, parents want the box because they want the children to do something else other than drive them crazy.
And you as young people seem to know all these different things. So that's such the ingenuity there is so impressive. If I had money, I would invest in your business. So
maybe he could take out some of his
but you gotta give me something in return.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, even though no one came into your school to tell you about investments, you have your own knowledge. You can see what is popular, what is everyone looking at. What does everyone want? Everyone has a cell phone, so it's a no-brainer. You could invest in Apple. I heard a woman say the other day, I can't tell you what it was that she said is not popular anymore, but it had to do with undergarments for women. But I listened to it. So sales of certain places that sell those are going down. So I mean, you can observe what's going on in the markets and invest in certain things. Now, we live in Barbados, so these things that I'm telling you to invest in is normally overseas, but you can get in touch with a broker overseas. The only problem you would have is getting your money out from Barbados because they have capital controls, currency controls.
So what are our options here in Barbados?
That's why mutual funds, as I said,
Because
or we have a broker, Annette is a registered broker. If there is a business in Barbados that's listed on the Barbados Stock Exchange that you're interested in, you could invest, you could buy a share.
Okay.
But your mutual funds as well have a combination of domestic and international
Correct.
investments.
The mutual funds are more exposed to international investments.
Okay.
So the ones that are mostly exposed to the international markets would have come down this year. So that's why I mentioned it is a good time
Investigating now.
around now.
No, it's
I
down.
can't tell you when the bottom is.
Yeah, but
it is
once it's
better
low, it's best to go in
than
now.
If you were to start last year when it was at its
bit higher.
Buy low, sell high.
Yes,
Okay,
that's not
so
true.
investments is indeed a long game. So
Yes.
even though there's a possibility to use it as an emergency fund that you
Right.
can take out,
Yes.
when you're looking at retirement, it's a long
It's really a
game. Tell us
long-term investment.
something.
It's really a long-term investment. So, you just said that if
Because
I
there's
had
fluctuation over the years and you're not to
Right.
panic.
Yeah.
You're not
right.
to panic.
That's normal. That's normal in the course of investing. I mean, even in the course of life, generally, nothing stays the same. There's always
Life
change.
happens.
True.
So you have to
Life
expect that
happens.
there will be change.
Yeah.
So when you do get the lows, just try not to panic too much because it will go back up.
Right.
Right? You did mention
That's the
that if you had
probability.
known when you were younger, but you cannot go back and change that. So
True.
start from now.
Now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, just telling the public, just telling the audience who have the
That's
opportunity
right.
right
Yeah.
now. I think
Right.
chats like this is perfect
Right.
because at least they're educated now. So
Yeah,
they
they have the knowledge.
Okay, if I get like $100 for Christmas, at least I can
start.
save that
I
and
can
start.
start.
You know.
I mean,
can
I
start.
understand what you mean. I always tell this story because I had a mutual fund from early on. The problem is that I just signed up for it because my aunt told me to sign up for it, but I didn't really know what it was. This was before I came to work here. So it's good to know that you're getting this knowledge and you're hearing about mutual funds. Go and do your research on mutual funds and the different types of mutual funds that are offered, how they work, how they manage. Because had I known then what it really was, I would have put
invested
in maybe
more.
like half, well, not really half my salary, but more because the NAV was like $1 something then, and it's double since. So you could see where your money, you would have made your money.
Yeah.
So when you leave here, don't just sit back and say that was a nice chat.
Yeah.
Right?
You use the tools and propel.
And share with your
Definitely.
friends because
Yes.
I think, again, there's just this really high bar in people's minds
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
investing.
Yes.
But it's really not
'Cause
that complex. It's really not that difficult. There
Right.
is a low bar for entry.
Yeah.
The important thing is to start.
I think that's
And-
what, like with me, like that was a scary thing. I thinking like this high expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
But the
from the
mindset
get-go.
is that you need at least $10,000 to $50,000
To put into this
in,
investment.
And that's why I
leave
thought
it
honestly
there
initially,
and
I
you
this
just
Especially in
big
order
bulk
to
of
be
money.
strong and,
Exactly.
stay
So
afloat.
to afloat. But it's good to know that you don't.
Yeah.
And in fact, putting in on a weekly or a monthly basis actually
And you
spreads
can
your
put it
risk.
in on a weekly
and you can
basis
do
as
that.
well.
It spreads your risk. So for instance, if you get in now in the mutual funds and it goes down a little bit, but it's on its way up. So you're around the bottom. If you put in each period, that spreads your risk as opposed to if you put in an amount at the start, left it there, and it goes down, the losses will be greater than if you kept buying at
Bit by bit by
a
bit
lower
by
a
bit.
lower level,
At various levels.
various
You're
level,
right.
and then it goes back up. So that's how it's called dollar cost averaging.
Dollar cost.
My eyes are rolling back in my head, but we understand the concept.
Yeah.
We understand the concept.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I like it.
So we just talked about the mental game, and again, finding money to invest. So we've got some mental hacks. How do you automate? How do you make it easier mentally to get that money to put aside? So here we go.
Through mental hacks, here are some ways to reserve a small amount of your income for investing. Automate your investing. Pay directly from your bank account or your salary. If you never see it, you can't spend it. Ask for help from your inner circle. They know your weaknesses. Ask them to call you out on it. Find inspiration. Why do you want a better financial future? I don't want to be a burden on my kids. I don't want to suffer in my old age. I want to have freedom. I want to be able to continue to help others. Whatever your inspiration is, tap into it. Don't make it easy to make impulse buys. Delete your credit card number from online shopping sites, and in the real world, count to 10 before purchasing anything unplanned. When you get a new job or a raise, save the increase and keep living at your current standard of living.
That last one's a real one.
Yeah.
That last one is a
So
real
we're
one.
living at a particular level. We get a new job. We get a $500 raise, and we spend all of it, and we say we don't have money to invest. We just have to change our mindset. And one of the big things in financial prosperity that people say is pay yourself first. Because when you're buying all of these retail goods and whatever else, you're supporting someone else. But are you taking care of you financially? Pay yourself first. And the discipline of paying yourself first kind of changes your mindset automatically, because having paid yourself, then what you do is with the money that is left, you're generally a lot more conscientious with that money, because now that money has to stretch. As opposed to paying yourself last, you do whatever you feel like with the money, and then there's nothing left for you. So in terms of paying yourself first, I think that's a really important mindset to take on, because who are you doing all of this for? Is it for the electric company? Is it who is it for? It's for you. Yeah.
Because I think not paying yourself first, you're just fooling yourself.
Yeah.
So you will end up dipping into the money. I think by paying yourself first, then you know, well, this is my
This
money
is a
that
discipline.
I got to do what I got to do with, and then
You are a bill.
Right.
You are a bill, so you pay yourself first. And I think with entrepreneurs, because my husband is one of the things that happens, especially when you're starting out, is that I heard you say that you want to make sure that you pay your staff. And you have to pay your staff. I mean, they've done work for you, so they're definitely a priority. But when you get into a mindset of you're paying your staff, sometimes you get into a little loop where if your mindset is you're doing this to pay your staff, sometimes months go by, you're the one taking all the risk, but they're the one with a guaranteed income, and you're not getting the return. But changing the mindset that you have to pay yourself first forces you to pay yourself and your staff. Because now you're thinking, all of us have to get paid. It's not like just that. And so now, yes.
It's true. It's true. Very true.
So yeah, it would help as well if you're paying yourself, i.e. investing in yourself first. You can set up a standing order. And the standing order will kind of take away, I didn't remember to deposit this or whatever. Again, I know as an entrepreneur, you may not have the fixed amount every month, but it's a good thing to think about, to set up a standing order where it just goes into the fund on a monthly basis, and you can kind of forget about it.
Set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it.
So I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to know if there are any final questions before we wrap up.
I would just like to know, I heard about your business, I would just like to hear
more about the other
businesses. Tell me more about your business, and we'll get to Janae.
Okay, I have a catering company. We do catering for like weddings, events, corporate meetings, conferences, and we also do lunchtime deliveries to businesses. So Monday to Friday, our lunches are like, so they're affordable, $16 to $20. Most of them are $16. We have a health club. So for people that want to be healthy, low carb meals, and so people like that, that's people subscribe to that. And our meals kind of, I think it help people save money as well. So you could say, well, this is my money for lunch for the week, and it usually adds up to less than $100 for the week for food, and that's pretty good. So yeah, that's basically it.
So how do you see COVID-19 possibly affecting you?
and they're working on a plan for that, no, because a lot of people starting to work from home, which means I kind of got to get directly to
Home
them.
deliveries, maybe.
Because currently I deliver in St. Michael and Christchurch. A lot of people live outside of that, St. Philip, St. James, etc. We email our menu items daily. Some people not being at work, not checking the email like that, as opposed to, because we send it out at 8 o'clock, most people come in, sit down, and see it pop up.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to get more into like WhatsApp. We're on Instagram, but we're trying to get more into WhatsApp, send it directly, and they could shoot us with their order, and we deliver to them if they're within the range.
But that's great that you're forward-looking and planning for the eventual
kind of
changes in the environment.
That's great. So, Jenny?
Yeah, so I'm on the creative industry side, and as you mentioned COVID, you know, everyone on the creative side is like, oh dear, what's gonna happen? Nobody's entertaining anymore. But my business is a jewelry, I'm a jewelry designer, and all of my accessories. Yes, it is. And it's handcrafted accessories. So from earrings to belts, I make it. It's my mom and I. So it's a family-oriented business. Everything is made with love, quality. I mean, I'm sure Caroline could attest to that. And as well as a dancer. I'm a member of Rhythm Tribe. We had our last performance this week, unfortunately, at one of our dancers' parents' funeral. But COVID has definitely impacted us. Well, both business. I will say Rhythm Tribe is a business for me as well. So I would say it has definitely impacted us in terms of events. There are none. So definitely is to reinvent the wheel pretty much because it's never hit us this hard before. So it's now to reinvent the wheel, you know, go back, be very strategic in terms of what you can do moving forward. And kind of just riding the wave.
Well, I have a suggestion.
Let's hear.
You're very virtual, digitally minded.
Yes.
So everyone is working from home. I like to exercise. A lot of people like to exercise.
Yes.
You could do subscribe for whatever amount of money, and you could keep your dance thing
that
going
is actually the way to go. I actually did, because I'm into fitness as well, as you would know, and we did a trial run last night in the gym where we're trying to do a live streaming. So that's
you're ahead of the game already, right? Because people will be wanting to know what kind of exercises can I do at home. It's completely a different way of living. So, and I already know you're ahead of the curve. You're all smart people.
Smart people. Smart people. As our guests and smart people at Sagicor who can help us with investing. We want to thank you again for being here. This has been Sagicor Intimate Chats. Investments are for everyone. And we hope to see you on the road to financial prosperity. Thanks for joining us.